Hello there, and welcome to the Shirley Jones Douglas Show. I have with me as my guest today an old familiar face, and I bet you already know what the subject is. Well, you should because of the credits, but you know, old friend, credits. Her name is Michelle Alexander of Jackson. See that face? That's Miss Michelle.
Hi out there.
And she's going to talk to us today about readying yourself for what you just went through on April 15th in the year 2013. However, she's going to help you to prepare yourself so that you have a successful time for filing this year's taxes on April 15th of 2014. So, and I think, you know, as long as you've seen her here, you know she has valuable information. So welcome to the show, Miss Michelle. I call her Miss Michelle.
Well, thank you, Miss Shirley.
Thank you for being here. But sure. Before you get started on talking about the taxes, I already told my, you know, my viewers about the appointment that you spoke of, and at the time, you know, you did not have it.
Right.
So now we have good news. So tell us about the appointment.
Well, you know, this has been such a humbling kind of experience, but I think the last time I was on the show, I said, you know, I was being considered for an advisory council position with Internal Revenue. And I can tell you the day, on January 14, 2013, I got the call.
I got the
call. So what I was told was there were 80 plus people that they were looking at from across the country, different career experiences and so forth, and skills and specialties, and they considered me among the best qualified. I was really humbled by that. And there were only 2 openings at the time, and I was selected. So on January 14, I got the call, and on January 29, they flew me into Washington, D.C., and I got to meet all the other council members, and we set the agenda for 2013, what we're going to be looking at, and which is part of what I'm going to talk about today, because this is I wanted to be on this particular subcommittee because it's something that's very close to me, and that's identity theft. Because it's so rampant and so it's more than what people think, and everybody thinks, you know, it's not going to happen to me, or maybe you don't think it's not going to happen to you, but just, you know, there's more than just a slight chance of it happening. Instead of 1 out of every 3 people, everybody is so subject now to identity theft and tax fraud and refund theft.
Yes.
You know, and now even tax preparer fraud. You know, so it's just it's getting worse and worse. And because
tax preparer fraud.
And unfortunately,
what aspect?
There are people out here. You know, I think I've talked to you before about how Internal Revenue. And I'm saying Internal Revenue, but I'm going to change that to the Department of the Treasury, because they're the agency that regulates Internal Revenue. They identified a couple of years ago the fact that they wanted to regulate who could prepare your tax return.
Yeah.
You needed to have what they called a PTIN number, which stands for Preparer Tax ID number. You need to have so many hours of professional ethics education each and every year if you're going to be a paid preparer. And it keeps us abreast and keeps us on our toes, and it protects the buying public, against someone who prepares your tax return and they really don't know what they're doing, and you're paying that person to do it. So you have people who pretend, now to be certified by the Department of the Treasury, AKA or known as IRS, and they're only their only intent is to prepare your tax return and pretend that they're putting the money in your bank account and they put the money in theirs, or they find some way.
So the PTIN number, the PTIN is artificial.
It's artificial
For the person who really is out there just to simply get your money. They could not have been certified because they get caught.
Well, they are getting caught. That's the thing. But
I mean, they're getting caught otherwise.
oh yeah, criminals normally get caught. They always think they can get away with it, but they don't. They don't get away with it. There's just a lot of that going around. So the councils this year is looking at a variety of issues, and that's one of them, and that's the one that I asked to be assigned to, and they did assign me to that particular.
Okay, so the PTIN number is still required?
Absolutely. Right now, it is still required. However, there is a federal lawsuit that was launched against IRS for putting this type of restriction on people who, wanted to be paid tax preparers. And until it finishes through the whole process, which now it's in appeals, there's no more restriction. So now you're really subject to a fraud, to someone who might say, oh yeah, I've got this. And anytime they can make counterfeit money, they can make a counterfeit letter that says I've got a PTIN and make up a number, and so forth. So the best thing to do is to stick with the people that you know. Like, especially if someone is preparing your tax return and they won't sign it, or they tell you just sign it and there's a whole lot of blanks, and you'd be surprised.
Wait a minute.
You would be surprised. And
no one would ever do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No one would sign a piece of paper with all these blanks.
Yeah, especially if they consider you a person they know and you're a friend. And I get horror stories. My very first big major audit of a company was after this gentleman. He had been with his tax professional for 19 years. Never looked at his tax return, just signed because he trusted this guy for 19 years. And then when his return came up in rotation for an audit examination and he called him, he couldn't get a return phone call, okay? So he's like, I don't know what to do. So one of my clients referred him to me, and when I looked at the return that was under examination, I asked him a couple of questions. I said, wow, you spent a lot of money in legal fees last year, because I think it was like $30,000, which is unusual. And he said, no, I didn't. I said, yeah, you did. And he said, no, I didn't. So I showed him on the line. I said, here's $25,000 here on this schedule and $3,000 on this schedule. So that's like $28,000, $30,000, And he was like blown away. He was like, I don't know where that came from. I said, well, didn't you look at the return before you signed it? He said, no, this guy's been doing this for me, for years and years. And I said, well, first of all, IRS is never going to blame him, because even though he prepared it and he may have falsified some figures, obviously he did, as a taxpayer, it is always your responsibility. You have to examine that tax return in the event that there's something
IRS may not do anything, but what about the gentleman? He can't go after that guy?
Well, he chose not to. Okay, that was his choice. And what happened was, while he put too much money on in that particular category, there was another category where he should have put like $80,000, because it was in contract labor, so it was real. It was a real figure. He only had like $1,800. So I could amend the return and fix it so that he wouldn't end up owing IRS, tons and tons of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
I have a friend who watches the show all the time. Mm-hmm. And, well, maybe I shouldn't say it. But anyway, you'll be doing that person's taxes.
Okay. I like
was getting ready.
pearls. Right, okay.
I'll tell. Remind me to ask you off screen. Though,
Okay, all right. Who
so
that
I can
person
tell you the
is.
story. It's so
Okay.
funny.
All right.
Well, it's a good funny, but you know, it's there. So that is so scary, because you know, the thing is, this guy saw him as a friend, and even if he was going to do that, he should have discussed it with him and said,
Hey, man, I'm gonna increase this. No, that's never a good idea. Or
"Well, I mean, this person, you know, he just signs it."
without examining.
I mean, I could see somebody sign it, but someone that you call your friend,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
he's putting $80,000.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
just crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. So I think you titled this show "Preparing for 2000."
Yeah, the road for two.
The road
yeah.
to
I didn't
2000.
use the word road.
Okay,
It is a road.
2013. And so some of the things, that's one of the things that everyone needs to keep it fresh in the front of your mind always is it doesn't matter. I think when I did your tax return, I showed you what I did. I took you through,
Yeah.
here's your income, and so forth. Because what if I had made a mistake? Because I'm not perfect, okay?
Really?
Well,
Oh, who didn't? What?
you didn't know that, did you?
No, I did not. I thought you was perfect.
No. If I make a mistake, I can correct it before it gets filed. Now, sometimes we both miss the mistake, but I will always answer the phone and make whatever correction I need. If you get so someone who is preparing your tax return should be someone that you've checked out. If you don't know the person, and even if you do know the person, ask about their practices, how they work. What do you do? What kind of information do you need? Do you collect, and so forth? I have people tell
Have
me.
any of your clients gone to jail? I mean,
No,
you need to ask
no,
them because of what you did. Because it seems like that guy could have gotten in a whole lot of trouble
Well, IRS will
doing
put,
an audit.
Well, okay, let's not scare everybody. People who go to jail are people who are evading the tax codes, the tax system. I hate to bring it up, but like the Wesley Snipes, I'll use him as an example. You just don't pay your taxes and your bill just goes like this, like this, like this. And at a certain point, IRS initiates a lien against your property, and then you get to the point where you're not even paying attention to that. And so the next thing you end up in tax court. So in order to go to jail for tax issues, you have not each step of the way, they've given you a remedy, okay, or something that you can do to begin to correct the problem and to fix it. And you just say, just don't do it, just don't do it, just don't do it. That's how you end up in jail.
Wow.
So yeah, because there is a remedy. You may not like it, okay? It may make you uncomfortable for 4 or 5, 6 years maybe, in terms of I've got to repay this, and here's all I can do. And there are things that we have to do in order to get you to the point where even that can happen sometimes, but it can happen. So no one is without a remedy. No one, okay? But if you don't pay attention to it, if you let it go, then it gets out of hand. It becomes an elephant, and even trying to chomp on it one bite at a time becomes like a mouthful. Becomes really overwhelming.
Go ahead.
So,
what's the other deal that this woman has for us?
The other me. She said, "This woman, I know who you're talking about." Okay, I'm like, who, me? Okay, all right. Well, in preparing for 2013, this is April 19. So here I am. We just passed April 15, but you now have 8 months to manage your tax life from now till December 31st,
Right.
before January 1st hits. And the successful filer is going to be the one who manages his or her tax life from January to December. So my focus for this year with everyone is something I call 0 plus, 0 plus, 0 plus. That means go to your employer, go to your HR department, whoever is responsible for your W-4, for passing out your, or calculating what your net pay is going to be in your paycheck, and redo your W-4. Do not claim yourself, your husband, your children, your dog, your bird. 0, 0, 0, 0, all the way down the front of that W-4. Get to line number 6. It says, please withhold the additional amount of, put a number on that line, $5, $20, $200, $50. Put something on that line. Learn to live within your means, on a budget, and because the system is volatile, and I don't see that it's going to get really comfortable for any of us come January 2014, and that means that you need to be better prepared, and that's how you can do it. You cannot count on credits. You cannot count on energy credits or education credits or earned income credit. It will probably, like the earned income credit, will probably still be around for a minute, but the amount that you can get is definitely based on your income. And as the unemployment rolls shrink and people start to make more money, that means the earned income amount that you can qualify for is going to reduce. So people who have enjoyed, I'm going to get an extra $2,000 in earned income credit is probably going to get an extra maybe $200 or $300. You know, so you can't count on that. And what you have to do is bridge the gap between the amount that's being taken out of your paycheck and the amount of tax that you will actually owe based on your net earnings, okay? So the only thing that you can do to prepare for that is adjust your W-4. 0 plus.
And that's going to be titled in your
That's
book
my
number
7th book number 7, 0 plus. It won't be called 0 plus, but that'll be the gist of it. It'll be
I think that sounds good.
0 plus, yeah. We'll call it something to that effect. Right.
I'm telling this woman what to name her 7th book.
0
And she's
plus.
not listening.
I'm listening. 0 plus.
It's going to be 0
It'll
plus.
be 0 plus.
And then under it says, thus saith Shirley Douglas. Yes.
Oh, Lord, okay. Oh, sorry, I just hit my mic. I'm so sorry.
It probably blew his ear off.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay, so what do you have new and exciting? This is a scary part. What's new and exciting? You know what, before you get to that, you always have these stories. What for this tax year, what was the scariest thing or something that was so...
The scariest thing was the identity theft, because in 2000,
I mean, did you experience that with someone?
Yes, yes.
What in
absolutely,
the world happened?
with a couple of people. Let me just see if I can find the figure. Here we go. In 2011, let's see, there were In 2000, the IRS prevented the issuance of $20 billion, that's a B, dollars of fraudulent refunds, okay, compared with the $14 billion, and that's also with a B, in 2011. It is so...
They averted how many billion? 20 billion.
We have people,
But that's still... what is the figure for what they may suppose it to be that got away with it even still? It's probably still in the billions.
It was in the billions. It was in the billions. It was. The number was close to the number that was averted. It was close to 20 billion, yes. Yes, it was.
So there's just people sitting out there just scamming, taking your money away.
Right.
Our money.
Right, exactly, which makes it really hard for everyone, So this year, there were so many people, a lot of my clients understood because, you know, I sit and I explain to everyone why I am not going to e-file your tax return, okay? Because when you put something out there over the internet using a software, if the company, if that software company, if their data, if their records are not encrypted securely enough, your social security number, your date of birth, your income information, everything about you is out in cyberspace for anyone to grab. That's how identity theft begins.
Now, is
Okay?
that through the IRS?
No.
Is that the only source?
No, it's
what
no.
is the major source of
Here,
theft?
let me. That's what it is. Let me just tell you what happens. Okay. You go into irs.gov and you see on their homepage it says free file. You click it on. Okay. It tells you, it gives you a list of all the software companies that will say, we'll prepare your tax return if you make under $57,000 a year. We'll prepare your tax return for free. Okay. And when you say, oh, that looks good, and you click on that software company, another screen comes up that says, you are now leaving the IRS website. Okay? So when you do that and you go to this software company, you better know what that company's encryption policies are, because you're getting ready to give that company all your
isn't
information.
there a warning when there is no security on a particular website?
Have you? You mean for the software? They don't give you that. They just take you right into filing your tax return. Gather all your documents. Here's what you need to file, and you just start answering questions.
But look, aren't there websites that warn you that this is an unsecured website?
There may be, but I don't know that any of them are putting that information out there for you to see up front. It may be embedded in something and you're not reading it, or it's the small print. And because I haven't looked at yet all of the software companies and what happens when you click it on. But that is one of the things that I raised when I was in DC in January. Is if,
because I know that, you know, I'm not even trying to do taxes, of course, because I
Right.
have Michelle Alexander for that. But I know that when I go to a website, there are some warnings. It says you are.
well, it may be your internet. You have internet. You have
A
internet
software
protection,
virus.
a virus software that says, you know, we don't recommend that you know, or you may want to do something and so forth. But I don't know that happens with any of the software companies when that comes up. They probably have encryption up to the acceptable, you know, point, but beyond that point they don't. Okay, because there's no way that all of your information can get stolen unless without if the software companies had the maximum amount of security. Right. Exactly. So they don't put the money into that, and you're the victim. You're the one that's getting victimized there.
Oh my goodness.
Right. You know. So that was.
Well,
so,
I can tell you because I mean I've known this lady for years. When she does someone's taxes, and that's why she looks like she does, because she walks from her office to the IRS office.
Oh, absolutely.
And files each and every single one.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing submitted over the internet. I can vouch for that.
And I have people who are mad at me. I've got, you know, folks that feel like, why is it taking so long? And I need my money and so forth. And I'm like, you know, I do this to protect you, okay? It may take a few weeks longer for you to get your refund, but the important thing is you're going to get it, and no one else is going to get your money, and no one else is going to get your information. Because when I take it to IRS, they then key it in as if it's a paper return. They can put the money directly into your bank account, and that's all that's all that nobody is seeing what, you know what I'm saying? They
Sure.
can't grab that. And it makes a difference of, I've got people who get anywhere between a few $100s in refund to $30,000 in refund, but it doesn't matter if it's $30 or $33,000. It's your money,
Right.
and you want it.
Right.
Okay, so you don't want anybody.
And you
out
don't want
there-
to share it with, well, it wouldn't be about
Excuse
sharing
me.
because if they take your money, they're keeping it all for themselves. You're not getting a dime of that.
No, and if people.
Well, what happens, excuse me for interrupting you, but what happens when that does happen? And the IRS knows that you did what you were supposed to do.
It can sometimes take a year to undo it, and sometimes longer.
But
what
will you
happens is-
eventually get your money back?
Eventually. But you have to fill out an affidavit, an identity theft affidavit. So IRS a couple years ago had to create that form, identity theft affidavit. And it happened to a new client that it happened to her last year. They took her refund. I think she went to one of the taxing agencies, okay,
Right.
and got her tax return prepared, she and her husband. And they, their software, they were using their own software. And they took her refund. When your social security number is out in cyberspace, somebody can grab it, and they used it to file a false return and got her refund. So when she went to prepare their tax return, IRS said, we already sent you your refund. And she was like, no, I'm just doing this for the first time. So, it's just a headache. It's a nuisance. And it cost us, the taxpayers.
Yeah.
It cost us, right.
I remember years ago, someplace I worked, they used to mail out these packets of information, and it was the 8x12 size envelope, and it had a window in it, had your name, your address, and underneath was my social security number.
Wow, on the envelope.
And I'm talking years ago, okay?
Wow.
Years ago.
Yeah.
And I made a fuss about that then. I said, no one should be able to see my social security number.
That's correct.
And they
That
had to
is
change
correct.
the whole system so that it would print otherwise. So
Exactly.
it wouldn't be in that window, because isn't that crazy?
Well, it is, and especially what if that
I mean,
happened
it wasn't,
today?
I mean, the dangers of something happening, but I just didn't like the idea.
Right, of somebody else.
But because I didn't like it, it caused them to do it for everybody.
Sure.
That's why you should not remain silent about things that you think are not. Well, of course, it doesn't
Absolutely.
make sense.
No, exactly. Why would you want anybody to see that? This is 2013. I think it was in 2012. 650,000 residents, and this was reported on the national news. 650,000 residents in South Carolina have filed a class action suit against the Department of Revenue for South Carolina. Why? Because a group of people broke into South Carolina's computer system because they didn't have encrypted strength in their files, and stole all this tax data. And people got their bank accounts compromised and their savings accounts compromised. Businesses were going out of business because somebody went and took all their money, and so forth. So you have to be so careful. We've had a couple of scares here in Pittsburgh with a few months ago when someone compromised the computer system at one of the banks here in Pittsburgh.
I know, it happened to my niece.
Yeah.
And it happened to a person that I know who's in business. That's just the two. But don't you think that it had to be huge
It was huge.
for me to know two people, and they mentioned it to me.
Absolutely.
There could have been more
Right.
who didn't mention it to me.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But here's my thing. How in the world did they keep that out the news?
They didn't. It was in the news. That's how I found out about it. It was in the news. It was in the news.
It made the
But
news?
it didn't, they kept it like this in the news. It didn't blow up. but it did make the news. Yes, it
Well,
did. But they were, you know,
what I do know
yeah,
is that they rectified it quickly.
very. They
Because,
had to.
because yeah, you don't want to keep something like that out in the open,
No, you don't.
and your customer is not satisfied.
No.
So they couldn't
no.
afford to do that. So I mean, I know that they, they rectified it
Very
quickly.
Yes, they
But
did.
still, and I still haven't heard it on the news.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So those of us who are using computers, and of course we all do.
Yeah, we
I'd
all
be lost without my computer. We have to